that.
It's on. Yeah, that's what it is. Read AI is on.
Okay, so we'll get started. I'll have to edit the beginning. All righty. Okay. Welcome back, all of our Courage, Confidence, and Connections podcast fans. I'm Janice Debo, your host for the day. I have a wonderful guest, Mike Ashebrainer. Branner. I always say that wrong, but anyway,
You
welcome
did good.
back. Yeah, we're going to have fun today. Learn all about Mike and how courage, confidence, and connections has played a part in his life and business. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Janice. You're awesome. You said it right. Even if you say it wrong, it's right. I appreciate you being here, my friend, or me inviting me to be here. I have a virus. I'm getting over it. So this is going to be more entertaining as well as educational. Get ready, folks.
Oh, yeah, that's fun. Tell our audience a little bit about, where you live and a little bit of history about you, and then we'll get into other things.
Yeah, fair enough. So probably the important part, right? I don't want to talk about things that no one would care about. I want to talk about things like I always do, about things that people can relate to, right? Because long story short, folks, I don't know about you, professionals, entrepreneurs, coaches, experts, even, corporate professionals.
Mhm.
The underlying thing that could probably be the title of my life, or at least one of them, is that I thought something was wrong with me, right? I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. You fill in the blank.
Mhm.
And long story short, what I had found was that it's not just me, Janice.
Mhm.
Everybody's got that to some degree or had it, and they're just better at hiding it than I am, right? And so, with that being said, I was all passion, no clue. I grew up country. I went to inner city. I bounced around like crazy, but mostly country. I love that, and that's where I find my most comfort level. But I was all passion, no clue. And work, I grew up poor, not the best childhood. And as my little one popped in, go sit down, love. And go sit down, Daddy's working. I do. Go sit down. So yeah, she's
Fam-
sick today.
Family.
So anyway, I lived most of my life, wanting to be somebody, do something special, but not having a clue, right? And as a child of the 80s, we didn't have the internet, right? If you're growing up isolated without friends, that's pretty much it for you.
Yep.
And so, I just kept switching career paths, kept doing the thing. I spent time, wasted time as a career, as a grunt worker for a large company. I poke my head out sometimes to do something, and then I would shrink back. And so that's pretty much my life was failure. And quite honestly, that's why I'm effective in business because I have failed more times than they've tried. And not only have I drove off the cliff, Janice, in life and business more times than a lot of folks, I went deeper than a lot of folks. And
Mhm.
so that's why we can get into it if you like, but all of these things that I enjoy today that I have, found my space in, that I own, that, I have earned the successes, the failures. This is where I'm finally meant to be. And that's kind of the message I want to give the folks out there, not just hope, but I wanted to give them concrete things that they can take and go, you know what? He's right. I'm going to revamp myself. I'm going to go next level and I'm going to get this done.
Fantastic. Now, on that note, where can we talk about where courage has come into play in your life? Where have you found courage to be? And most of the time, frankly, I don't think we know when we're being courageous until after the fact. So tell me a little bit about your story where that's concerned.
Woo. Well, let me focus that on the hounds of business, right?
Okay.
Because there's an interesting backstory. It's even how I became finance. I was a firefighter for several years. Like I said, grunt worker. I started a company, did okay, didn't work out long term, blah, blah, blah. So when I came, what really happened, guys, here's what happened in the biggest part of my change, right? Where the story took a positive note, where things started finally looking up. And even though it was a hard path, up until COVID. So everybody's got that pivotal COVID story, right? And I'm no exception. So right up until COVID, I had joined a guy in finance. So I'm a fiduciary, still am. And when COVID hit, they said you can't go out and play anymore. I said, oh my gosh. And some other things in life happened. So what I had done right before COVID, folks, being dirt poor, and you can't even burn dirt, right? So I started a business supporting the back offices of other vice presidents. So long story short, I made 100K plus, and to a guy like me, whoo, man, that's like making a gazillion dollars, or like Dr. Evil, like a gazillion dollars. And so when that went to zero, I'm sitting outside at Christmas about 3 years ago, zero income, a family, and devastated. And, I did the worst thing, but the only thing I could do, I went on mostly LinkedIn, right? Social media, and I didn't know what I was doing. And this is a theme for other people, whether it's LinkedIn or just taking that step, right? That courageous step to to live your dream and figure out a lifestyle that is buried inside of you. And so I did it, and it was disastrous. People were saying no, and I was rejected nonstop, and it was horrible, right? Horrible, horrible.
Yeah.
But I met a mentor. He come out of nowhere, and because I was looking for a mentor, right? Funny how that happens. And so this crazy cage fighter from Chicago, he come out and he says, "Hey, man," he started pouring all of this stuff that I knew I did it offline. I knew how to do it in business, but I had no clue how to do it on LinkedIn and online. It was a new territory. Kind of like when Michael Jordan went from basketball to baseball, right? He's still a super athlete, but it's an entirely different game. He's going to have to learn it. And that, in hindsight, that's what happened. See, folks out there listening, they think they suck. People are rejecting them. Their business has no value. Their impact and legacy that they dream of and try to suppress sometimes, or a lot of times, that is not really doable. And folks, let me tell you something, that in most cases, that's not the case. For me, the hounds of business, listen, there's nothing wrong with you, right? You know what the hell, you know what happened? You showed up to a baseball game with a football. Think about that. If
Yeah.
Michael Jordan showed up to his new basket or baseball game with his basketball and started doing that stuff, he would look ridiculous. So that's what I do. That's why the Hounds of Business was created. That's why I have my courses, my framework for becoming a master attractor, and that's why I help people connect them with high ticket clients, because there's nothing wrong with it. You just don't know the rules and a formula that works, and that's why it's so empowering. So the long, long story short, and that was the short one, is that you know it was my pain, and it's not just my pain. There's a lot of folks out there with that pain, and now we have a solution for that. It's not the only solution, but it's a winning solution. And that's why I love being out here talking to people, because you are struggling inside, and you
Mhm.
and all the things that you want to accomplish in this world. Maybe you went through a nasty relationship and you want to help other women going through it. Maybe you went through cancer and you want to empower other people and help survivor rates.
Yeah.
And you want to, but you won't. You know why most people won't? Because they don't have the people, resources, and support to get it done, Janice. And that's why me and you are so aligned. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm going to back up and rewind here on your childhood. And I want to know, you said you grew up. Well, we all have a story, but it does lend itself to where we are now. And like mine was growing up moving. We didn't have a lot either. Preacher's kid and all. That taught me how to make new connections. Because I had to, you move around a lot, all that stuff. And I'm a Southern girl, so I relate to the country as well. Tell me a little bit about how you, in growing up, how that might have impacted where you are now and what you're doing. Any stories there? Because you're a storyteller.
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Uh, you know, about a year ago, I was scrolling through YouTube, right? And I landed on David Goggins for the first time. And I've really connected with him because he said, I'm an extremely empathic guy. Because when you have nothing and you have no friends and life seems to be stacked against you, you really pay attention. You study people, whether you're aware of it or not, right? And so when David Goggins said, listen, I've become a student of people, I had to study like what's going on. And from his own, he had no other help or reference point.
Hmm.
And that's really what it was. But I felt like a weirdo, to be honest. Like I did, I'm almost 44. I'll be 44 in a couple of weeks, and I'm just now figuring out, hey, you got a superpower, right? But childhood at the time, right, in most of my life, I'll put it this way: my parents did their best, but it wasn't the ideal way, to live, right? And a lot of folks have that, right? But I had another example, a positive example, of my grandparents. My grandparents, I had the little 6-year-old, 6 years Sunday school pin since I was 6 years old. I never missed the Sunday school. And they were working class, they worked hard, they were respected in church, community, etc. And not perfect people, but, they were stable. They worked things out. And so in hindsight, I was blessed, right? I saw what not to do, and then I saw what could be done. And then later in life, that desire to be somebody and do something special is just now being realized the last couple of years. But there's another level. There's a
Mhm.
higher level. Like I don't have to settle for what people told me to settle for. I don't have to work a job I deeply hate or want to overcome. I don't have to do this and that. I don't have to be extroverted if I'm introverted. See, these kind of things, when you start defining life and success for yourself,
Mhm.
holy cow. But that starts with internal work. That starts inside. And I think because I had such a rough childhood and never felt like I fit in, that when everything come crashing down, I took personal responsibility and realized this is my life. It may not be my fault, folks, but it's my responsibility. If I don't like how life is, if I
Mhm.
don't like how people engage with me, if I don't like my financial status, fill in the blank, you know what? You can fix it. That's not scary, folks. That's empowering. You just have to be willing to go through the work to become the person that can do it. And
Yep.
that's what this is about. So my childhood was a nightmare, but it made me who I am today and who I will be, and the people I'm surrounded around, like you, and that would never ever have happened had not been for my awful childhood. So the lesson here, folks, is that everything that stinks in your life is your teacher if you look at it the right way,
That's right.
and that will elevate you. But boy, it's going to be a nightmare and it's going to suck, and it could be a while, but it's worth it. There's light in the tunnel as well as outside of that tunnel. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, and I absolutely agree because I was thinking this morning, I journal every day and as well as meditate. My mornings are very, very, very important to me. And so I was thinking about my own father who couldn't connect. He just couldn't connect. That was him. He had problems and that's how he grew up, so he couldn't connect. But I found myself journaling a little thank you note to him for being who he was because I wouldn't be strong and independent if I hadn't gone through that. And I think
Amen.
our audience needs to know that whatever you go through, ask questions of it. Like
Yeah.
what is this for? What am I taking away from this? One of my favorite meditations I do, she says frequently, take the learning and leave the rest. So
Yeah. Love
and
it.
that's what we need to do. Yeah, learn from your past, present, and future. Don't.
Like a scientist, like an
Yeah.
experiment. I don't
Hmm.
look at things and go, oh, that's good and bad and label it.
Right.
As I think Epictetus said, it's not the event itself that's the problem. It's our interpretation of it. So instead of, for example, well, my first thought for most of my life were, well, how could that guy send that stupid email? How dare he, right? Now the thought is, what am I doing to cause that guy to think that's okay? Right? It's a much different playing field.
It
That's a one from empowerment. That's one that challenges your values, your alignment, your self-worth. It's the focus on you. If
Yep.
I see someone aggravating me nowadays, I think, oh my gosh, there might be something in me that's triggering that. Not him, right? Dogs bark, cats meow, and people dadgummit.
Yep.
But what
Yep.
what am I doing? And I did it. I did it the other day. You want to hear something I ain't never tell nobody, and I wouldn't
Yep.
say it.
Please do.
Yeah. So I saw two gentlemen that I work with. I love their stuff, but I was sitting there, deep thought strategy, right? And I said, you know what? So I stuck some of their articles into some AI, right? Because I had programmed AI. AI knows me. It's a little creepy, but yeah, it knows how to speak my language literally.
Mhm.
And so anyway, I put it in there, and I was looking for critiques and illogical fallacies and strengths and weaknesses, et cetera, just to learn. Scientist, right? And and it came up, and I thought it was interesting, and I said, "Uh-oh, guess what? I have to put my article in there now." And you know what? AI doesn't have feelings. It don't care what you think. It's going to tell you if that's a turd sandwich, you're going to know it. And so I did it. I put it in there, and I realized all that inner work, all that suffering and struggling for the last 18 so months. What a gift it is to be so free and open now when you were complete opposite that you can self-correct. You can say, nobody else has to say, hey, it looks like you're going a little too far one way, Mike. You did that to yourself. So
Yeah.
instead of saying, how could they do that or something's wrong with them, you just said, hey, if I'm seeing something here, that might be a reflection of me. And so it's never other people anymore. And boy, that's a far cry. I was a victim for most of my life, Janice, and
Yep.
now I'm not. And so why
Exactly.
am I talking about this and not the daggum business stuff they came to hear? Because I'm telling you, folks, when you get yourself together and
Mhm.
you start enjoying life and defining and focusing and all these things from that internal struggle, guess what? Your sales script's going to be more believable, more effective. Your marketing is going to be authentic as can be, right? Everything you build on that. And people are like, well, I want to get to the business. Get to you. And boy, when that business is born out of you, those marketing strategies, boom, right? They're going to be amplified like gas on a campfire. Does that
A
make
thousand
sense?
percent, 1,000%. And, people, when I coach, I tell people your business and you are the same. Whatever you do in business affects your personal life. Whatever you have in your personal life affects your business. And don't think you can pull them apart. You can't. You cannot separate your life and business. And if you think you can, you're deceiving yourself. Life is
I'll
Mhm.
keep going. No, no, no. But let
Okay.
me respond to that because I'm about to bust. Go.
Okay, you go ahead. I was just going to say life is a
Oh.
mirror, but we just talked about that. Go ahead.
No, 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 Janice. I just get excited. Forgive me and
It's
thanks
okay.
for the grace. Have you been told too? Because most of my life, I can remember either directly or implied that it's not personal, it's just business. You need to
Exactly.
separate your business from that was a major thing because I never liked that. And dadgummit, I proved that's not the case, not for folks like us. So it is personal. Listen, I'm in finance. You in this country, if you're in finance, you're more personal than the proctologist, guys. Let me understand that. Seriously, and this is serious.
Oh my
So how
goodness.
can it not be personal? You're putting your trust and your daggum livelihood in my hands. Again, we can go on and on, but my point is, I wanted it. There's nothing better than having people that share your values, share your alignment, who want the same thing because they just want it. There's not because of the paycheck, not because of some other circumstance. We just want to be and live and do and grow our business as we are. So when I encounter those, it's the who before the what. I'm like a redneck owl now. I'm like, who do you know? Who can help me? Because the what is, listen, there's a million people that do what I do, probably more than that. There's 1,000 people in minimum in the most obscure place in space. There's millions of most people, but there's only one of me. There's only one of you. And so, you know, I go to another connector, right? I want to be able to trust. That's
Mhm.
why I choose. That's why I work with you, Janice, because I don't worry about it. We share the values. And so that's what people want, especially high ticket, high value men and women who went through this process, man. They don't think and operate like we do. And I'm about to put a newsletter out about this. I'm going to spill the beans on what high ticket, high value men and women in business, how they operate, because it's a different playing field. And it doesn't mean it's better or worse, right? We all had to start here before we became, quote, high ticket. But the difference between doing it and not doing it is vast.
It is.
And you can't do and teach what you don't know.
That's right.
So I figured it out the hard way, and nobody wants to go through 40 years of you know what crap to do it. But
Oh,
it can be done, and I've seen it. I've seen people that took the leap. We pushed each other up, and now they're making a difference in cancer, right? They're helping the homeless because they were homeless, right?
mhm.
This is why we exist, not the dollars, not to pay the electric bill. We start there. Yeah, you got to do that.
Gotta do it.
But what after that? Like, why am I here? Like,
Mhm.
what's going to happen when I'm dead? Is that it, or is there continuation going to happen? And that's what drives me now. It's not ego. It used to be a little bit. Now it's just results, man.
Yeah.
People are hurting, and I'm the type of guy that doesn't like that. And if I can put it out there and help you, but if you don't want it, you ain't got to watch me. So it's a very healthy, mindset that
It is.
you could cheer me, boo me, I don't care. Because you know I'm not trying to feed vegan steak. That's what I'm saying, Jay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important that what we do is coming from a place of passion. And you are an extremely passionate person. So tell me a little bit about and tell our audience where that passion came from. Did it come from your suffering? Because I know from a lot of us, the passion does come out of the suffering and wanting to make a difference, because that's how I feel. So tell us a little bit about that, your passion.
Great topic. Great question. So the passion, again, just be vulnerable because I don't want people to go, oh, well, that's him. He's special. No, I ain't special. Listen, not in this regard. All right. When
Mhm.
I realized, internally, I guess what really triggered me taking this to the next level, saying, oh, I don't want to start the Hounds or take it to the next level. I don't want to do this and that, was when I realized, and I realized this for the real, when I realized that other people were struggling either as much or more than I was with similar things, right? Whether they're different circumstance, it comes from the same thing, right? Lack of inner self-worth, bad childhood,
Yep.
all this programming we're told in this society and in this day and age. When that happened to me, it was like I was like a bug zapper. I was like a magnet, right? Even people who were wildly successful. We're talking about like New York City, attorney women. We had that same commonality. And so what really triggered me was that, and I do believe, I don't force it on no one, but hey, I believe it was absolutely a God thing. It was a universe teaching me and helping me at this point to go past my limits, to do something special that I always dreamed of. And that happened because I'll give you an example and I'll stop. One lady in particular built a friendship, through the Hounds before we even knew what we were doing and had anything. And, I've been 8 year recovering alcoholic now, right? So I don't know how many healthy alcoholics you've ever met, right? I have never met any. And so this person was struggling with someone else in their household and family that was going through this.
Mhm.
And I remember them just pouring this out. And I was going through my own stuff at the time, and I just listened for about 2.5 hours, right? And I listened to this lady talk and pour it out. And at the end of it, I just shared my experience and gave a couple, things they could do. And I remember hanging up and thinking, nobody's going to listen. You just wasted 2.5 hours. You did a good deed, you listened, and no one's going to do anything because that's usually what happens, or it takes a while, and you never see it. Well, I was blessed to see the result of that conversation. 3 weeks go by, I get nervous. I said, man, I ain't heard nothing. So I make a phone call, I leave a text, and guess what? I couldn't believe it. He's taken the alcohol treatment like the last 3 weeks. She packed up and like action steps that are moving them to the right healthy direction. And I realized, holy cow, all of that horrible stuff that you were ashamed of and that drug you down and is the reason and made you a victim and all that,
Yeah.
it just changed someone else's daggone life. And so then I got curious, curiosity. I said, wow, what, maybe that can happen again, right? And so it did. And then like Field of Dreams, the movie, you build it and they'll come.
Exactly.
And that just, so my point is, that's a long way of saying that, but I know there's people out there. There's people out there dropping 5 million a year that can go, yeah, man, he's speaking to me. Um, because you're capable of 20 million,
Yeah.
right? And so, well, I can't even pay the electric bill. Me neither. I mean, I can now, but that wasn't the case, for most of the time. So,
Exactly.
but this is it. But
Mhm.
you know, there's so much more in you, but you need to focus on you. You got to quit blaming other people. You got to go connect with people and say, "Wow, my crappy life story changed that. How can I do that again?" And
Exactly.
then, long story short, can I use this capitalist society and build a business, this free enterprise, to do that? Because people are willing to pay for that.
Mhm.
Not that I want to capitalize, but they're willing to pay not for the advice for that, but they're willing to pay for that kind of trust, that kind of belonging.
Exactly.
Because yeah, somebody else might have a good solution too, but boy, if that man's going to take 2.5 hours to help me with a program, my
Mhm.
own personal life, and leave me alone, maybe if I'm going to go hire someone, who am I at least going to talk to first? There, Gumman. I mean, and that was the rudimentary start of the Hounds of Business, to build a community. It could be also called as Redneck Camelot, that did everything the opposite of what traditional marketing and social media marketing tells us to do. Because I did that and I thought I stunk. I thought I stunk, but I didn't. I had to uncover a way. And the most rewarding thing was that millions of other people have to be. We've already proved thousands upon thousands. You know,
Yeah.
they share that. You probably share some aspect of this because you're here, right? Like, and
Yeah,
so
exactly. Exactly. Well, and that was a great segue. So we've been talking and you brought up the hounds of business, and I'm sure there are people that might be listening going, hounds, what are they into the dog business? So so
no,
I'm curious that you will explain to our audience what it is, how you came up with the name, and just help our audience understand a little bit because we're talking about confidence and connections
yeah,
and what that does. When I got invited, I didn't know what I was stepping into. So,
yeah.
you know what dogs leave around. So I didn't know what I was stepping into.
You read my mind.
Oh my goodness. So go for it. Tell us a little bit about that.
So again, as all the things I was doing, I didn't set out to start the Hounds of Business community, an online business community, right? We're full of heart-centered, high-level professionals. Uh, Here's the easiest way I can put this, guys. Advertising, right? That's that, and there's nothing wrong with it. Advertising essentially is me, right? I pay for it, I put myself out there. Nothing wrong with that, folks. If you're good at it, I am jealous of you. I'm seriously like I spent 40 years bashing that square peg in a round hole. It is not fun. But what I didn't realize, and here's what people don't expect. They expect advertising. It's okay. But what they don't expect when it's done authentically and well and effectively, undeniably, when they see the proof and they go, oh my God, what they don't expect is hundreds and thousands of super pros to walk around all walks of life and say you're great from all industries of high reputation. Folks, you can't buy that at the corner store. You can't manufacture that. That's earned. There's no way in the world Janice and high level people like her are going to put their reputation, their livelihood that they went through, what to get if you're not the real deal. And
Mhm.
so that's what happened on accident. But we didn't expand this and we didn't move this forward and scale this up by accident. We realized that was the whole jibber jabber I was talking about. And I wasn't alone. And so that's it. The Hounds of business is simple. If you guys are out there, mostly on platforms like LinkedIn, even Facebook, I'm not going to get into it, but if you're out there on social media, business platforms, even in-person network, but most people network online and they join networking groups. I have found through all that pain and all that research and experience, four pillars that I have put a framework together for my that you don't have to do yourself, called the Master Attractor Framework. And they're simple. There's four C pillars to this, four C's. The first one is clarity, right? People talk about profile optimization, right? Especially on LinkedIn and platforms like Alignable.
Mhm.
Well, listen to me. Are you an influencer? Are you here for likes? And you don't get paid on these platforms like other platforms like TikTok. You don't
Mhm.
get paid to get likes and followers. You get paid to connect with the person behind the screen, dadgummit. To know, like, and trust and do things to make them go, ah. But that requires branding, guys. See, optimization gets you found in searches. Branding, people will see you before they see your brand before they meet you. Tanya Eberhardt taught me that, and brand face. And then you have to be clear. Like when you look at my profile, you pretty much know what I do because it's right there. So if you engage with me, don't be surprised when you start learning about this, right? And
Right.
so anyway, first thing is I help people identify, hey, clarity. That's your problem. If you go into a networking community of high level people and say blah, 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 that's the problem, right?
Mhm.
You need to be able to they need to see you and be able to clearly say this what I do. So that's clarity. Connections. They're connecting with the right people in the right places, Janice, right?
Mhm.
For visibility, exposure, and a common purpose.
Right.
So not just collecting business cards in person, not just connecting with people that you don't know and strangers on LinkedIn, Alignable, etc. Connections that make, like, you sell cookies and they sell milk. How do we get together? Right.
Right.
So clients now, clients later, referral partners, right? That I want to connect with meaningful things that can move my mission forward. Right? And then three, community. We done that for you. Right. So the third pillar is already done. So where do I go to find people like Janice? People who, put my best interest forward. They won't sell a bald person a perm, right? They're going to say, hey, listen, you might not need this. There's a hat and wig shop down here by a trustworthy other hound member that could help you. So that's how we do business. We do it in other people's best interests. And guess what? They come back to me. So, yeah, or you. So we just created this, we leveled the playing field. We said, look, let's make this fair and equitable. And we don't have to go do 40 coffee chats to sell some poor set that probably won't keep it anyway. No, I'm going to go show up for Janice and connect her and do things. Look, she invited me to her show. I mean, so you guys think about it. And then the last one is conversion.
Mhm.
It's great to have fun and sing kumbaya, but if you ain't making money, you can't make a difference.
Right.
You can't leave a legacy. So it's about the right message, community partners, and offers that will generate real results, converting prospects into paid clients, folks. And so that's what I do. The Hounds of Business is the playground. If you come into this thing and you don't like it, you test drive it, tell me. I'll find you somewhere that might be a better. We're strategically aligned with other communities. So it's about you getting unstuck, right? And if you love it, Merry Christmas. That's great. So it's a take it or leave it. We're not pushing. Come test drive. I think what separates us and why we're so attractive is because we really want you to. We don't need to be sold. You're a smart people listening to this. You could have been scrolling on goofy things and entertainment, but you're listening to this right now. So you don't need to be sold. All you need is to think about it. All
Mhm.
I need is to get the information, all the complete information, so I, a smart professional, can make a wise or unwise decision. I'm okay. Once you get it and you say no, thank you, Good. Why would I want to waste your time and mine? I don't. And so that's what the world is like. Thank God. There's a group of people doing this.
Exactly.
Well, listen, even if you're bald, maybe you don't want a hat. Maybe you're happy with baldness. Good. We're good for you. But
Mhm.
tell your friend who wants a hat, right? And so that's
Exactly.
our mentality. I know I go on and on, but I want people to understand this. If they're willing to hang in here and listen to all, they're going to get something of value because this ain't just ramblings. This is stuff that I am saving you years of headaches, or you know what I'm talking about because you lived it
Mhm. I've lived it.
and you're not alone.
Yep. Well, it's important that I love to help people avoid what I call speed bumps and potholes. I even wrote a blog about that, the potholes and speed bumps, because there's gonna be times we're just driving along and we hit a speed bump that slows us down, or we hit a pothole and our car goes.
Yep. A lot of
And so if I can help people avoid some of that because of the ones I've encountered, that's where it's out. I love helping people avoid that. And I've had clients go and do things and not tell me in advance. And I'm like, why didn't you ask me about that? And then they have a crash. So,
exactly.
yeah. So we want to help people avoid those pitfalls or whatever you want to call them
And we're
because
real about it.
we're real about it. We've been there, done that. And if you want to avoid it, you might want to talk to one of us.
Yeah.
So, so the Hounds is awesome, and I met you through the Hounds, of course, and many others that have started to change the trajectory of my life. And this is not a sales podcast. We don't do that here, but it's about how someone like Mike has taken the lessons from his life and embraced the courage to gain the confidence and make the connections to change his life and yours. Mike, it has been a pleasure and a lot of fun. So I'm going to
Are we
wrap
done?
up. Well, we don't have to be. I have no time.
Oh man.
You
No,
got
no, no. I just time flies when you're having fun. But real quick, if I may, Janice, because it's an honor. I love talk. I could talk to you forever because there's value here. Nobody cares how long it is if there's value,
there's
right?
value.
Like I don't. I can listen for to value and interesting things for hours. But I do want to address one thing. I don't talk about this typically ever. That whole salesy thing. Listen, I'm willing to risk being salesy, right? Because it ain't. And if you interpret that, that might be self-selection, or it could indicate it's the wrong timing for you. And there's nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
But a lot of folks are hearing people tell them that, and they consider the source is my best advice. Consider the source. If you're being told that by people, let me explain it this way. If Mother Teresa, right, somebody I think is great and I look up to, and her legacy, if she was back there and she said, that redneck's a real, what, that might stop me. I probably want to reevaluate that. If somebody like me said that, I might want to do a character check. But if like somebody like Jeffrey Dahmer or somebody said it, okay, like, I don't relate to you. I don't eat people. Like it doesn't affect me. And so I think it's not that you shouldn't take advice. You need to be discerning of whose advice you're taking
Exactly.
because no high level, high value, built from dirt, from the scratch up, maintain their integrity and good heart and love people. Those people, they don't say that to me. And so I love that because I know you're the same way.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that to be facetious or pompous. I'm saying that because there's a lot of great people that can do amazing things, and someone that they respect or value, and they'll say it, not that on purpose, but those little nuances destroy. And then we wonder why doesn't cancer get, cured? Why doesn't this get, because the people who could have done it didn't,
Mhm.
because of little things like that. And
Exactly.
that's why we're here. We're not perfect, but we want to create the ecosystem. So if you're willing to take the hits, stop working a corporate job in your 40s, lose your 401k and your benefits, then you have the people, resources, and support to make that a reality. That's why you and I work so well together, Janice, because we want that for everyone.
Mhm. It's true. And to our audience, reach out. All of Mike's information will be available, as will mine. You can see my website right behind me. I'm easy to find. I made it simple. But Mike's information, and we'll have that master attractor workbook. And you call it, it's going to be, is it like an ebook, Mike?
Yes, ma'am. We'll put the link in there. It is a downloadable ebook. You already know if you listen to half of this or even a fraction of it,
Yeah,
I'm not going to be chasing and pestering you, but
right.
you will get real valuable glasses of milk to help you. And I want you to test me and see if this works for you.
Yeah.
And if you see value and want to learn more, no sales pitches. Come into the ecosystem. Let's have a chat. And
Mhm.
if I'm not the right fit, I'm going to send you to Janice or whoever else is. I'm tired of seeing people waste time and money, and I'm not going to do that to you. And you know what? When I send you to Janice and she's done, oh yeah, come back. Now I can blow you out of the rooftops. But that's what people need now more than anything. They're willing to invest and they need to know what to invest in. They just don't even know what to ask because it's new. How they never played the game. And so we're going to teach you the game and help you and guide you through our experience.
We want you to succeed. We do.
Yes, ma'am. More than anything.
All right. Well, thank you again, Mike Asherbrenner.
It's
And
my
all your
pleasure.
information will be available. And we will see you on our next episode of Courage, Confidence, and Connections podcast.